Welcome to Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. Your host, a behavioral scientist and bachelor, talks to leading experts and successful singles about living solo and living well. Travel more, make things, sleep in when you want to. Here's the playbook for the person who is unapologetically unattached. Now, please welcome Dr. Peter McGraw.
Welcome back. While the topic of parenthood comes up from time to time, it is often from the perspective that solos are not typically parents. However, in this week's episode, I talked to two solo parents, one who is a single mother by choice, and the other who had an oopsie. You'll hear their stories, discover how their team helps them, and also learn a bit about how they go about dating, or not. I hope you enjoy the episode. Let's get started. Welcome to Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. I'm Peter McGraw. Today's first guest is Paula Wood. Paula is an award-winning filmmaker and entrepreneur. She's worked in development at 20th Century Fox, produced reality television, and is now the CEO and principal creative director of her own marketing firm, working with clients across the country. I got to know her through the Solo Club on Clubhouse, where she is an outstanding moderator and an easy laugh. Welcome, Paula.
Thank you, Peter.
Today's second guest is Marla Chehowski. Marla is a SMC, single mother by choice, living in Chicago. A former TV news journalist who traveled the country and parts of the world for years covering breaking news, she's now a public relations executive managing media relations for clients at a global creative communication agency. I met Marla through a mutual friend who couldn't say enough good things about her. Welcome, Marla.
Hi, Peter. Great to be here.
So I'm thrilled to do this. This took a lot to get set up, and here's why. I have two solo parents who are working full-time, and they're solo parents. So we are doing this at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific, which is where I am right now. And one of the themes in this podcast is that of the freedom and the optionality that solos have. And a lot of that is often focused on the fact that solos don't have a family, and yet sometimes they do. Mm-hmm. And yet I think that this podcast still keeps with that with regard to the freedom and optionality that adults have, and specifically women have nowadays, to still have a child outside of a partnership. And you two are doing it and doing it well. And I have many listeners who are parents themselves, and they have been clamoring for something like this. And so this is my first foray into an episode specifically on solo parenting. So what I'd like to start with is your stories. How did you get here? How is it that I'm talking to you besides the fact that you are going to be just such a fabulous interview?
I'll let Marla go first.
Thank you. Well, let's see. Where do I begin? I have a 1-year-old daughter. Her name is Lucy, and she's the love of my life. I can't believe that I'm a mom. Every day I wake up, and I usually waking up to hearing her in the next room, and I think to myself, what is that? Oh, yeah, that's my baby. No, yes. It's been a wild year. She was born in June of last year during the pandemic. So as anyone, who may be listening, if they know anyone who had a baby during the pandemic, it was quite an experience. But, everything that we go through makes us stronger on the other side, hopefully. So in my journey to become a single mother by choice, it's definitely something that took a lot of personal reflection over a lot of time. When I was 25, I thought, if I'm not married by the time I'm 30, with probably at least one kid on the way by the time I'm 32, then, the world may stop rotating. I don't know.
Failure.
Yeah.
Terrible failure.
Can't imagine what my life would look like if those things had not happened at that age. So, here I was staring 40 in the face, and it was like, had gotten out of a relationship not too long before that. And was like, okay, here we go. Where are we going? What am I doing? And, you know, I know so many women that have walked in those footsteps. And I know, you know, being a parent is not for everyone. I have always felt in my heart that somehow, some way, I would become a mother. And I feel like I've never really taken the conventional path forward. Like after college, everyone's graduating from college and going to big cities and working and have these big jobs in big cities. And I went to La Crosse, Wisconsin to be a local news reporter making $7.50 an hour, you know, and the complete opposite of the big city for a valuable reason, because I was pursuing my dream to become a TV news reporter after going to college for it. So, you know, everyone's journey is so different and so personal, but I got to a stage in my life where I knew if I'm going to do this, I need to focus and figure it out. And it is a journey.
Age 40, you're
pretty
like,
much. I decided to freeze my eggs at 40. Yeah.
Okay.
But I will say that freezing the eggs is not, for anyone that's explored that, it's not a slam dunk, and there's no guarantees with any of it. And the eggs that I did end up freezing are not the eggs that got me my daughter.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, which is surprising to a lot of people.
Okay. So this relationship that ended, I assume you had others before that. Mm-hmm. At what point, this idea that you said you felt in your heart that you wanted to be a mother, you knew this young, you know, at least in your mid-20s at the very least. I'm guessing probably even before that.
You know, I've always loved being around children. I'm very close with my own mother. I don't come from a big family, so I don't have nieces and nephews. Growing up, I had one older brother. My older brother was killed by a drunk driver when I was turning 16. Oh. So that obviously massive tragedy in our family that has impacted me forever. And, you know, I think about it every day, and I wish very much so that my brother was here, because my daughter's middle name is in honor of him. And I know that he would be, you know, so in love with her. But part of me was realizing, like, if I don't take control and try to create the things that I wish existed, I want a family. And how is that? There's so many ways to approach that, not just the traditional way when you really explore your options. So there was so much like long nights of thinking about, how am I going to do this? Is this the right decision? Am I making the right decision? There's, you know, every mom, regardless if you're single or not, I'm sure has gone through that. But there was a lot of ups and downs and hurdles, and just knowing at the end of the day in my heart, it's like, do I want to be a mother? And the answer is yes.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things that is really striking about this, you know, so much of life, if you want to live it solo, you know, you sort of can in a lot of ways, right? Like more now than ever in terms of making your way in the world, in terms of sort of structures, inventions, innovation, support, and so on. And yet, I think for the average person, especially the average woman, there's like, oh, I need to solve this other problem before I have a child, which is, who the hell am I going to do this with? Right? You know, and
there is that.
Yeah, this episode's coming on the heels of a 2-part episode on waiting, on this notion of waiting that is a very common, I think, theme in singles' lives. You know, whether it be hopelessly waiting or hopefully waiting. And some of that waiting is not just for a partner, potential life partner, but then also for a potential father or mother of would-be children. You know, I get this sense, this is from women I've dated, this is from female friends, this is from listeners and conversations. There's often kind of this sort of time in life, again, because of the reality of if you do want to have children, there is a time stamp associated with it, which is, I better get serious about this. So Marla, you got serious about it, seriously at 40, you know, in terms of medically. But was there a time where you felt like you got serious with it about the dating that you were doing, the person that you were spending time with, how you were vetting who you might go out with, who you were swiping right and left to?
Oh, Lord, the swiping. Yes. The swiping is nonstop. Yeah, I went through all of that. I remember getting on Match like more than a decade, probably before the swiping really started. And it has evolved, right? All of those apps have evolved so much. It lasted several years and got to the point where it's kind of like with any relationship, you're thinking, where is this headed? Are we both on the same page? Do we both feel the same way in our hearts? And for me, the answer was, I love this person. I'm not in love with this person deeply to the point where I can honestly say, like, if I look forward 5 years, like, what does our life look like together?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, yeah, there was that clock, you're just like, okay, now after that relationship ended, I traveled a bunch. I got a lot of traveling on my own, out of my system, which was amazing. And then you come back to reality and you're like, okay, now where is he? Where is he? And you're thinking, oh, one of these apps has got to be just like the magic trick that I need.
Yeah, right.
And then finally I'm like, screw the apps. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, no, I get it. I had kind of an unfortunate date. And this woman was 42, and she was sort of like, well, if I wanted to have a kid, I could have a kid. And incredibly optimistic person. And that, of course, I found that deeply attractive about her. And I said, well, are your eggs frozen? And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, are you going to do this with a partner? She's like, well, perhaps. And I'm like, well, you got to get to know the person. And like, maybe they want to actually have a little time, just the two of you, before there's a third. So there is that reality, clearly that can exist.
Yeah, very rare to like on your first date being like, so do you want to have a baby?
Yeah. Paul, you have a different story than Marla, though.
I do.
I don't know your story. I know that you have a son.
Yeah, no. So my story, a little bit different. I always wanted a big family. I always wanted lots of children. I grew up with 2 other brothers and sisters. My dad has 13 aunts. Well, I have 13 aunts and uncles on my dad's side. My mom had some brothers and sisters. Most of her brothers have passed away. It's just her and her sister. So I've always wanted a big family. And I never really but as my life grew, I didn't focus on it. I just wanted to pursue my career and have fun. And, I wasn't even a thought. I obviously want to be a wife. I obviously want to be in a healthy, happy, reciprocal relationship. Well, not obviously, but those were things that I wanted. But it was never like, okay, I have to have a baby now. I'm only 34, so I think I still had some time before I started freaking out because I didn't know. See, I went to a private Christian school growing up, so I didn't even learn about the body and the eggs and stuff until like a year or 2 ago. My friends were like, hey, every time you have a period, you lose your eggs or whatever. And I was like, wait, what? Really? And they were like, yeah, that's why women, freak out when they get older. And I was just like, oh no, so maybe I should start thinking about this. So anyway, everyone thought I was so silly for not knowing that. But so I was dating this gentleman and it just wasn't going anywhere. But I was in a place in my life where I was very insecure. I had very limited relationship experience. I'm a very giving person. So if you're in need, I help you. I was raised by a single mom and I seen her take care of us, the family, strangers on the street, coworkers, employees. If anybody needed anything, she was there to help. And so growing up with this like strong, independent woman, it's just like second nature. So if you're with somebody who you really enjoy being with, you help them. So I got caught up with someone who couldn't financially take care of himself and ended up in a 4 or 5 year relationship where he lived with me. I paid for things, paid for trips. Don't judge me. And towards the end of that relationship, when the light bulb clicked for me and I was like, wait a minute, what are you doing? I had lost some weight. I finally gained that self-confidence and I was just looking at him every day and I was just like, I don't want to spend the rest of my life with you. So I went on a trip with my mother.
And you're thinking this. You're not saying this.
No, I'm thinking this. Correct. I'm not saying it. I tried to kick him out a couple times. He was like, make me. Call the police. And I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. This is a nightmare.
Oh my goodness.
He was like, make me leave. And I was just like, bro, this is my place. Go to your mom's house.
Let's just pause for a little public service announcement.
Don't judge me.
If someone says you need to leave and your response is go ahead, call the police, it means you need to leave.
Just go.
You just gotta go.
Just go. So went on a trip to St. Lucia, the island.
I've heard about this trip.
You've heard the St. Lucia trip story.
Yes, I have. Yes. It was her, what's that movie? It's Paula getting her groove back. It's sort of that story.
Oh, and there was no groove getting on the trip. When I came back, homie who was living for free, he got the groove.
Yes.
And, and that was the time that I conceived. And so 3 months later, threw up, didn't really realize that was a thing. And I did. My mom was like, oh, you're pregnant. And I thought she was going to be upset with me because she's a career woman. She had great big plans for me. I'm her oldest daughter. I'm kind of like a mini Margaret. And she was like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting. And I was like, wait, what? You're not mad at me? I'm having a baby outside of marriage. Like, this is not what you wanted from me. This is not what I want for myself. And she was like, no, you're getting older. It's time for you to have a child. And, I was getting worried about you because, you didn't have anyone. And I was just like, okay, Mom, whatever. So I had my son. Me and his dad are very, not granola to the core of the word granola, but we were anti-medicine, anti-hospitals. And so we did agree to have Malachi, my son, with midwives at home in a swimming pool, indoor inflatable pool. And that was a really beautiful experience. And I had 2 midwives and an intern and my mom and my sister in the room. And it was beautiful. Pushed him out. And then like Marla was saying, like every morning he wakes up and he's like, Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. And I'm like, oh, okay, honey, I'm coming, Yeah. And yeah, he's almost 2 now. And he's about 21, 22 months now. Yeah, he's just the smartest little boy. He knows listen, I'm going to brag for a second. So he's a year old. He knows all of his colors. He knows numbers up to 10 by himself and can count up to 100 with help. Okay?
None of this means anything to me, you two.
It's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Marla's like shaking her head up, nodding approvingly. Oh, that's quite good.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm watching on YouTube every day these like brilliant like 2 and 3-year-olds reading books. I'm like, okay, my son's going to be one of these kids. I love my son.
That's awesome.
He's the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And he and his dad are not together. I am dating. And I think it actually works, though, this co-parent thing, because I have time alone to do me when he's with his dad. And then when I have him, I can be a mom. So I think for me, while I thought my life was over when I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, oh my God, I can't move to LA anymore, and I can't do this, and I can't do that. I don't know. I think I get the best of both worlds in my situation. I think for now, that's my answer.
And are you about 50-50? What is your split on this, Paula?
Sure. Let's just call it 50-50. Yes.
All right. 60-40, 70.
No, it's pretty equal. When I go to work Monday through Friday, he watches him like a daycare, 9 to 5. And then I have him every weekend. Every night, and then every other weekend we switch.
Okay.
The reason I say it's not 100% equal is because in my research, when I have him all of the evenings, it's as if I'm a full-time parent.
Yeah.
So he should share some nights with his father for it to be equal. Okay. So he gets to go out and have fun every night, and I just have to be on baby.
You got lunch
dates.
Duty. I get it. I understand. And Marla, you're 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I have been very fortunate. My parents, my mom and my dad, they have stepped up to the plate over the last year. And when I had my childcare fall through, like soon right after I went back to work, after my maternity leave, basically just were like, okay. So they have been helping me for the last year, essentially raising their granddaughter. My mom comes a couple days. My dad came a couple days. So it's just been so lucky. And they both live fairly close. So there's so many people out there that struggle with childcare, and it is tough, And now Lucy just started daycare. So I'm like, drop her off to another place, a new place, started last week. And it was like, my mind was like,
yeah. How does that feel? How did that feel to drop your...
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard for me. It was hard for me to trust another adult that doesn't belong to my family to care for her, but seeing the other kids in the class and how happy they were, and just knowing she loves to be around other kids. She loves people. She just loves like being like part of the party. So just seeing her at the end of the day when I came to pick her up, and just seeing the pictures throughout the day they send you and everything, that it made her easier, but also harder, being like, what is she doing that I'm not going to be able to like see it when it happens. But yeah, it's been such a wild ride. But I know like it is, this chapter of daycare is good for her. It's good for me, because now I'm still working from home every day, which has its own set of challenges. And then you throw a 1-year-old into the mix, and it is challenging.
Impossible.
It's challenging.
And both of you have sort of pivoted your careers in different ways. How much of those pivots have happened because of motherhood? Was that happening anyways?
I would say, I went into the PR world about 4 years ago.
Okay.
So that was before all of the egg freezing and the IVF journey and all of that began. But, since COVID, like here I was, I had a baby in June 2020 thinking, by the time my maternity leave is over, I'll be going back to the office. Well, that never happened because then we had wave 2 of COVID here in Chicago. So I've been working from home every day since. Pros and cons, like everything, right? Like I get to go to the gym in the morning when I should be commuting, right? Thank God for that. So just, little things, like you can get so much more done. But it's also at some point, you're like, I want to have a human conversation with someone beyond the guy at Starbucks or, whatever.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of alone time. And then it's a lot of then parenting time. And those are your 2 modes.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then like if I plan ahead a night out with a friend.
Yeah, weeks out.
Yeah.
I know. Yes, I get. I get. And how about you, Paula? Because I know you've pivoted also.
Yeah, things changed a lot. Before I was pregnant, I was about to sell my car, buy a van, and travel across the country to do van life. And I have a friend who was going to let me park my van in her driveway on Redondo Beach. She lived in Redondo Beach. And I was just going to just do the hippie thing for a while and just do freelance gigs out there and in Los Angeles. And I had some things lined up and some shows to work on. And then I was pregnant. So I had to be a full grown up. And I couldn't do the single just because, when you're doing that whole thing, I wasn't making a lot of money. I was doing oodles and noodles. I was doing ramen and you just eat what you want to eat.
You're hustling, yeah.
I was a vegan on purpose to cut out meat and save money and lost weight, looked good, felt good, and so I was just going to do that and just live my best life, so to speak. And then, I was like, I can't take care of a child like that. So I did have to humble myself. And my mom has a business here in DC. And so I just bit the bullet and said, you know what? I'll just come back and work for you. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm the office manager, culture manager. I manage about 70 to 80 employees, working on proposal coordination. So I'm part of her business plan, her business development team. So I have a regular job now, which it's a blessing. It really is. I'm not even going to say anything negative about it. It's a blessing. I'm just taking a pause right now and getting on my feet as a single mom. So I'm purchasing a house in November. So I spent the last year in COVID, moved in with my mom, saved a ton of money, and came up with a down payment for a house. And so now me and my son can be grown-ups together. I can be a respectable mom. And not that if anyone else is not doing that doesn't mean you're not. But, just...
your own space. I can imagine that being important.
Yeah, have our own space. And I love our neighbors already. There's a whole Facebook group of us. And so, I shifted to just corporate America right now. And then I have my marketing company that I do on nights and weekends, which is really fun. I have this really big client that I did some work for and prayerfully getting more work to kind of extend into next year so I can maybe shift some things around and maybe work for my mom half the time so that I can really maximize the opportunity I have with him. But he's got a cool tech company out in Texas and we've got some commercials going on. So I'm really excited about that. So I haven't lost touch with my creative side. It's just that I'm not doing the Hollywood thing,
Got it. So one of the things I talk about a lot on the podcast is how solos need a team. I like this sort of team concept, so family, friends, professionals, people there to support your life. As I always like to say is, this is something that I took from Bella DePaulo, which is married people have the one, single people have the ones. That is, this interconnected group of people. I'm a very big proponent of friends. Obviously, family is part of that. But then also, again, having Marla's teachers at the nursery school are part of her team, and so on. So I'm curious, you both have spoken glowingly about parents. That seems essential in your case. I know they're important because I had a colleague once say to me, I would have my in-laws move to the same city if they could to help with the child rearing. And I don't like my in-laws, right? So, just...
That says it all, yeah.
It says it all, right? That's there. So who else do you consider to be sort of part of your team, besides the folks we've talked about? And why?
Yeah, for me at least, in addition to my small immediate family, some of my very close friends don't even physically live in Chicago. So that's been a challenge, just wishing they were closer. They're kind of all spread out. And then I have friends here in Chicago, but they're single. They don't understand what it's like they of course are very happy for me, and they
we do in
me.
the abstract, Marla.
Yeah.
In the very
Nobody
abstract.
can say they understand until you walk in those
That's
shoes.
exactly right.
That is for anything really. But yeah, and there's a Chicago Facebook group, Single Moms by Choice, that has created. Oh, you can probably hear my daughter now.
That's okay.
She's listening to us. So there's a Facebook group, has been very supportive. There's a group of moms that we connected, luckily, right before the shutdown of the pandemic. And we were able to like meet in person. And all of us had babies around like April, May, June. So we were forever connected and will be forever connected because of that.
That's great.
And really, you know, I'm sure Paula knows too, like a single parent, like connecting with other moms is great, but like I really don't even feel somebody can totally relate to my situation unless they are living it, right?
Yes, I could see that, certainly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with everything you just said. Like, I was just thinking to myself, because I gave birth with midwives, they group us as women together by birth month. And so during the pregnancy process, we had monthly meetings with each other who were pregnant. And then there's an email list now that we all have children. We just email whatever, you know, diapers for sale or birthday party here, or we're having a Zoom this here. And it's really, really, really helpful to keep my sanity as a single mom. Even though I did feel bad because everyone had husbands and I was the only one without a man. Still am. But
don't worry, that won't last, Paula. That's not going to last.
Find out. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with these people out here. But
oh no, I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about them.
Oh. Yeah, no, they all seem pretty good. No, everybody has their little pictures on their Instagram, got the pretty fake life or pretty real life. I don't know. But it was nice to have that community of other moms, whether they were single or married or whatever. But in real life, for me, early on, it was actually some family friends of mine. So my mom has some friends that are our friends as well. And they were like, listen, we know you're still dating. If you need us to watch the baby, he can come over for a weekend. He can come over for a night, you know. So yeah, just friends who are dying, who don't have children of their own, and they missed the window. So these friends are like in their 50s. Okay. And they're just like, look, babies, come over. You know, I don't have any of my own. I'll watch yours. Just let me know. So that happened a lot from 0 to a year old. And then now that he's a year old and he's walking and he's talking, I just find things to do. And me and his dad have figured out the schedule thing. And that helps me a lot too. So every other weekend he's with his dad. When he's with me, I find fun things to do. We might go to the beach or we might go walking. We might go to the playground. So I just don't try to get rid of him on my weekends when I have him, because that's my time with him. But then the weekends that I don't have him, he's with his dad. You know, the girl is single again.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I don't know. I think as much as me and his dad didn't work out, or as much negative I want to say about him, he is a really good dad. You know, he does take him when he needs to. There's very little backing out, you know, last minute, like sometimes people do. And so far. So he's been a really huge help for me in my sanity, in my date life. And some of my friends have just offered. I don't really ask too much because I hate asking for favors. I 100% hate asking for favors. But as a mom, I've learned that you better ask for the favor or else you're going to be, you know.
So my only personal experience, so to Marla's point, yeah, I have very little ability to empathize. Although I can sympathize, my mom was a single parent. She was 100%. And I now appreciate much, much more how insanely difficult it was for her. We were super low income. So she went from being essentially a housewife to trying to have, like, basically scraping together a bunch of really shitty jobs until I was maybe, I don't know, 13, 14. And then she got a job as a secretary, which was like the mother lode. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, that was like a game-changing change for her. This was a time, though, with, you know, we were latchkey kids. So, you know, we were on our own a lot, you know, and so on. And I can now interpret a lot of her behavior that I sometimes really resented through a different type of lens, which is one around safety, security, control, just trying to keep. I'll give you an example of this that's related beyond that. which is this idea of self-care, which I think, Paula, you're kind of alluding to. Marla, I'm sure you are when you're talking about your parents helping out and so on, which is how do you be the best parent to your child, which is you have to be good to yourself. You have to be a good parent to yourself, and that's hard to do. One of the things that my mom always made my sister and I do was get our sleep. Like, sleep was incredibly important to her, and it was for two reasons, I think. Only one I figured out later. The first one was, like, sleep is good for you. Sleep is good for children. And so we were always in bed early. She always made us take naps as kids, even when we didn't want it. We didn't, Paula's smiling and giving her thumbs up. What I realized later was it was her only way to have quiet time.
Go to sleep.
Get these kids to bed.
Go to bed.
I can have some me time. So I can just have some peace and quiet.
Totally.
So
yeah, she had the good strategy.
Yes. And, she gave me a great gift because I valued sleep my entire life, more so than the average person, just because it was drilled into my head. So, yeah. So are there other kind of like strategies that you have to make sure you're your best self as a solo parent in particular? And then a follow-up question to the team thing. Are there any kind of people on the professional side, people you spend money on, who also might be sort of part of this team? So consider this like a two-part question, probably in the reverse order.
I think for me, as far as when you mentioned the sleep thing, I recently discovered this learning device. Oh my God, Marla, you need to look this up. It's called the AILA, Aaliyah Animal Adventure. It's like artificial intelligence tablet that teaches your child. There's songs, there's math, there's numbers. And Malachi just sits there like for 30 whole minutes, like say the days that I have him to work. Oh my goodness. I get so much done in that 30 minutes because he's just like glued to this. But it's not a traditional touch tablet. It's meant for them to learn and to repeat versus touch and swipe and,
So it's conversational.
It's good screen time, not bad screen time. Because there's a screen time thing for babies or children. Like you don't want to give them too much screen time.
Right.
But yeah, this thing, oh my goodness. Apple. Like, oh my goodness. And
I need to know that.
And it's for like 12 months and up. So anyway, but yeah, anything to keep him distracted, OMG amazing. But for me, self-care for me was definitely dates. And I'm shifting this now because I believe everyone goes through seasons and sections of life. So what's right for someone at this season will probably change later. And so what I was doing was scheduling dates from online apps just to get my hair done, get my nails done, go out, because I had to go out and I didn't really care if I liked you or didn't like you. I wanted to have a good time. Now my time is valuable and I'm not wasting my time on somebody that I'm not feeling on the phone.
Right.
But the first couple months, it was like, I got to get out the house. I got to feel like a woman. I got to, I have to. And so for me, that's what a couple months of my life looked like as far as self-care went. I went to the mall. I bought a new dress. Then I was like, I can't afford to keep doing this. I was like, every weekend I would go buy new clothes and new shoes and get my hair and nails done. I'd spend like $500. I'd be like, what are you doing? I was like, you know what? No, let's change this. But it helped me. So it was a small season of my life. Yeah. And then showers. Showers are really
Showers are very important.
Listen, it's hard as a single mom to take a shower.
Restore your soul after a long day.
I remember, Paula, in a clubhouse room, you talked about this. So, okay, I'm going to try to recreate this, and you can add a little bit of flavor to it. But you were sort of talking about, especially in the early days, you're just one-on-one, it's constant, and you were just like, how can I wash myself?
Yes.
And like you were using the bed, you created this barrier.
Yes.
And then you would like basically get the shower going. The baby was in place. You would go into the shower as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Come back out, check. Is my recollection
about
right?
Yes, you hit the parts you got to hit. And then one time I couldn't do it anymore because he started rolling.
Yes.
And I remember, oh my God, I hope you haven't done this, Marla. I'm a horrible mom. I was in the shower and he rolled off the bed, and my bed sits really high off the floor, and I have hardwood floors.
Oh my goodness!
Girl,
and I heard
the diving off the bed has happened.
I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I jumped out the shower so fast. I had lightning speed. Like if my superpower was flash and speed, I was there in like 2.5 seconds, not even. And yeah, after that, I was just like, you know what? I guess I'm just not going to shower until you go to sleep. But then when you go to sleep, I want to sleep. So you know what? I'm just not going to shower. I'm just going to sleep. And yeah, it was really impossible in the early days.
Pick your poison,
It was impossible.
There's so many nights where you're like, well, shower or sleep? Which one's it going to be?
Are you the same way? Because I'm pretty sure some moms are listening to this.
Because I feel like showering does help me sleep better at night.
Yes.
Which, is always a good thing. But then, that extra 15 minutes could be devoted to sleep. Is also a very good thing. So,
do you sleep better or worse now that you're a solo parent?
Oh, I mean, but there's no comparison. The lack of sleep. I mean, clearly, like in the beginning, right? Like you're up at all hours with feedings and everything. But then I think she started sleeping through the night probably around closer to the 5-month mark consistently. That's a game changer. So now it's solid 10 hours, usually from 8 to 6, give or take a little bit on either side. But, I just know like if she's down by 8, my ass is in bed by 9:30 at least, hopefully the latest 10, because I'm an 8-hour. I need 8 hours.
But you sleep harder, better now than you did before just because you're exhausted?
Oh, no. I wake up more often.
Oh, you do? Because of anxiety or because...
Well, just if she wakes up, I hear her. She may wake up and then she falls asleep again, but I can hear her. My friendly cat likes to wake me up at the crack of dawn for whatever reason. I've thought about checking myself into a hotel for one night. I was going to do that for Mother's Day, and that never happened. But speaking of self-care, that would be, the treat for myself to just go to a hotel. And then I'd probably sleep like shit anyways. But just to go to a hotel and have uninterrupted night of sleep in a very comfortable bed would be great.
Okay. Yeah. Paul, you were shaking your head. Yes. And
yeah,
yes.
The phantom cries are real. You're sleeping and then you think you hear a baby crying. So you wake up. And then like for me, he sleeps in his own room now. Before I used to breastfeed and sleep with him in the bed. So I actually slept pretty good the first year he was born because I just kept him with me, and when he was hungry, he just popped the boob in his mouth and ate. And so I could sleep. And so, but now I hear the cries, but they're not real cries. They're in my mind. And you think you hear a baby crying, and there's no baby crying.
I said that as wishful thinking because I've thought about this for myself. So I've never felt the tug of being a parent. I had a couple relationships that I thought I would get married, and I knew that if that ever happened, we would likely have children. But those relationships were more about the woman than it was about these would-be children. And I've thought about this a lot, which is the way I'm wired. My anxieties are fine, except for the middle of the night. That's when they come up. You know what I mean? Especially now at this age, like I don't sleep 8 hours straight anymore. A good night, I make 6 straight, and then I'm up, and then I'm back down kind of thing. And I just happen to think that if I had a baby in the house, I'd be up a lot more. I'd hear those phantom cries. I just want to go check, make sure this baby's still breathing. You know what I mean? Like that kind of.
That's what your friendly video monitor comes in handy.
Yeah, I'm sure there's apps and so on to help with this kind of stuff. But I can just imagine. I think I would have the same, clearly have the same experience.
I think you brought up self-care. I get to the gym, try to get at least 3 days a week in there, as soon as I can in the morning, always in the morning. So if it doesn't happen in the morning, it just probably won't happen. So that for just stress relief alone is key. And now that you finally don't have to wear the mask at the gym every time you go,
it's nice.
Also an improvement. But then I would say like throughout the IVF journey, and I know a lot of clinics are like this, they require you to meet with one of their psychotherapists, a psychologist on staff, because, the decisions that you're making during this journey are very life altering, right? So it was super helpful for me.
By the way, they should have people doing this for anyone having a child.
Right, regardless.
Right? Like you think about it, no one's ever like, you really should talk to a professional before you do this.
It would be helpful.
Yeah, but you're asked to do it because it's non-standard.
Yeah, so it was like part of the process of what I went through. But to this day, like even after I got pregnant and I asked her, I said, now that I'm actually pregnant and like graduating from the IVF clinic to, an OBGYN clinic, I said, I don't have to like not talk to you anymore, right? She's like, oh no, you can come talk to me anytime. I said, good, because I'm not going anywhere.
You have a good therapist, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And now it's gotten to the point where, it's usually like monthly, it used to be more frequent, like monthly check-ins, everything's still virtual for the most part. So it's just been to have somebody who knows your journey. And I think with any sort of therapy too, regardless, if it involves, trying to become a parent, like you need that person who knows you and knows your history. I found that to be the same with dating. Like if you met somebody dating and like you just instantly have so much in common, right? And then you build this relationship with them and they know your history. That was always the hardest part for me. Like when you start over again, you're thinking, oh my God, like don't want to have to explain myself. Because I've lived like 40 years, it's 44 years. So it's a lot to explain,
Yes, they were starting over again.
Yeah, the starting over again. That's, the job interview type feeling.
I'm going to make a quick plug. I do have a previous solo episode. I don't know if it's like episode 17 or what, but it's how to find a therapist. And I always make that plug when I talk about having a team. And I want to second your observation, Marla, about having someone who, if you can develop this into something that's ongoing. My therapist and I, we've been together for like 12 years. He's helped me make extraordinary change in my life, including helping me with this fraught relationship with my mother. And now, though, even if we don't talk that often, if I do reach out to him, I was struggling at one point coming out of the pandemic, and it kind of caught me by surprise because I had been doing fairly well, all things considered. And he just immediately was able to hone in on some of the stuff that was happening and to give me some good advice because he knows me. He knows me really, really well because he's seen me at my best and worst and at my most authentic and vulnerable. And so I'm happy to hear you. I'm happy to hear you say that.
Sure.
I do want to ask a question, though, about family and friends and professionals. And that is what the two of you have done is unconventional. And this podcast is for the unconventional. And one of the things that happens when you step away from convention, when you diverge from convention is, at best, people will celebrate it. They'll be like, good for you. That's great. They're impressed. They find it to be inspirational and so on. The more common response is that either of curiosity. Oh, really? Tell me more. I'm puzzled, perplexed by this. Why would you want to do this? To outright judgmental. And people have strong opinions, as you know. And what is amazing, if I may editorialize for a moment, how people feel incredibly comfortable telling you how you should behave when it comes to getting married, having kids, the number of kids, the way you raise them, what you call them. Like, it is just incredible how much strangers and beyond will do this. This was a topic of a previous episode on only children that did a lot of myth busting around only children that's there. And so I'm curious, I have to imagine, knowing the two of you, just hearing you, that you had a lot of very encouraging, supportive people in your life. But were there situations, are there now situations where you haven't felt supported, where you felt that curiosity, where you felt that judgmental perspective?
Yeah, I think for me, it's entering into the educational part of my son. So I've noticed that he likes and loves learning. And I've been doing a lot of research on traditional education systems. And I really am doing a lot of homework on homeschooling, unschooling, world schooling.
Oh, time out. Unschooling?
Unschooling.
World schooling? Tell me, what are these? Does this sound, I'm intrigued.
So homeschooling, you already know what that is. Unschooling is more or less when they've been in school, so you have to unteach some habits. But it's like homeschool. But if anyone's listening to this and they're actually an educational expert, they're like, she's got it all wrong. But that's, from my understanding, it's undoing what the school system has taught you to sit down, be quiet. This is what you're going to study now.
Prepare you for factory work.
With unschooling, it's child-led. They do what they want to do as long as they're doing the different subjects whenever they want to.
Is that kind of like the Montessori theory? Like that philosophy where it's very child-led play and that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm really into Montessori right now. So all that. And then world schooling, I was actually on Clubhouse a couple months ago in this single parent room. And there was this amazing woman who was world schooling. I think she had like 3 or 4 children. She was single. Oh my goodness. I should introduce you, Peter. She was just telling me like, yeah, instead of my kids, she had kids like 5, 7, and like 13 or something. So my son's too young. But she said instead of them learning about, let's just say the Eiffel Tower in the book, let's just go to Paris and look at it. Instead of reading about Picasso, let's go to the Picasso Museum. Instead of learning about speaking Spanish, let's go live in Spain for a year. Like, she was just like, no, and it's so affordable. She was just telling me all these cool tips and tricks, and you host the solo travel stuff. And so it's some similar concepts to that.
So, Paula, when you were talking about this, are you anticipating critiques for this decision?
100%.
Or are people already
no.
critiquing these ideas?
Yeah, my mom, she's like, no, put that boy in a charter school, you know. No, she's anti all of that. She's like, just do what's easy. Just put them in school with everyone else. And it's like free daycare, you know, like just send them to school and they'll teach them. And I'm just like, okay, I understand that. So that's why I got married a rich guy so I can stay at home and teach my own baby. Because I'm sorry, guys. It sounded like that. Don't judge me. You guys don't know me all the way. But one side of me is like, look, can somebody take care of me so I can take care of my baby, please?
That is one like sort of open secret at the education system is it serves the dual role.
Yes.
Right. And that was obviously shined a light on during COVID, right?
Yeah.
Which is the childcare element of schooling.
Yes.
That's very real. That's there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm impressed by Paula's getting out there and dating, like right after having a baby.
Got a lot of energy.
Like, that is.
Oh, girl, I had to.
We're going to get to that. We'll get that in a second.
I can't wrap my head around that, but bravo to you. Like, I'm finally now at a stage where I'm like, should I try to date somebody? I don't know. I mean, it's been so long. Like, part of me, I think it goes to Paula's point, like, your time is valuable. Mm-hmm. My time is 10 times more valuable than it was before I had my daughter. Mm-hmm. So, I refuse to waste my time on anyone that's not like, wow, you seem great. And it takes time to weed out the bottom feeders.
Oh, yeah. No. Like, on one hand, online dating is amazing, right? The reach, the ability to sort through not hundreds, but thousands of potential dates is incredible. And yet it's still a lot of work.
It's exhausting.
Before we continue, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Wax Crescent, a Boulder-based company that makes small batch candles hand-poured. Founded by Kim Terabil, a solo entrepreneur and contributor to the podcast. Her candles are made with soy wax and infused with wonderful fragrances and essential oils. The candles are fabulously designed, and I use one nearly every day. Use code SOLO20 for 20% off your first order at waxcrescent.com. That's SOLO20 at waxcrescent, like crescent the moon.com. And gentlemen, don't worry. Kim has guy-friendly candles too, or as I like to call them, mandals. My favorites are Imagine and Birch. Thank you, Wax Crescent, and thank you, Kim, for sponsoring the podcast. Marla, we're going to get back to some of your haters, if you have them. I do want to talk about dating for a second. And so, how do you go about communicating your solo parenthood in your dating life?
Well, if I had a dating life, I could answer that question, but I don't.
Well, okay, let's have a little fun, Marla. Suppose you're going to download an app.
I'll be the guy. Can we do a role play? I'll be the guy. So Marla, do you have any children?
Yes, actually, I do. I have a 1-year-old daughter.
Oh wow, a 1-year-old. So where's her dad?
Yeah, so I chose to have a baby on my own, and I used a sperm donor. And after a lot of long waiting and trying, I got pregnant with my daughter, and she's amazing.
Wow, that's incredible. I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have much time? These are questions men ask you, by the way. So
yeah,
you
I'm
must not
sensing
have
that.
much time to date since you have a 1-year-old. Why are you even on the app if you have a 1-year-old?
Well, I am at a point in my life where I am ready to devote more time for myself. And if I can have an enjoyable evening out, then I deserve that. And I look forward to meeting somebody who I actually enjoy spending time with eventually.
I love that. I love that. Okay.
Well,
Yeah, no,
Paula,
I mean, I'm not going to keep asking questions, but no,
no. I think you're getting a little bit of a flavor for the
I can't wait for
interview
those
style
questions.
of dating that some
those
people
questions.
do. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's a lovely setup. You must not have much time to date.
They make assumptions, and I hate that. I'm like, I have
Yeah,
a
I
great
agree.
support system. What the hell? Like, because
You're like,
I have
well,
a small.
and you just cross yourself off the list.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Exactly.
I can tell you this as someone who has been on the interviewed side of these things. I also dislike the interview style of dating that's there. But I would say is the questions are more important than the answers.
Mm-hmm.
That is, people reveal what their preferences are by way of the questions they ask you.
Sure.
And so I'll give you my personal one is when a woman finds out that I have a podcast that celebrates and destigmatizes single living. Some say, well, that sounds great. I'd want to listen to that. And I'm like, fabulous, right? I'm not here to pick up listeners, but if I pick up a listener, sure. By the way, any of my exes who are listening to this, thank you so much. I'm glad you're stuck with it, even if you didn't stick with me. But the other one is sometimes I get, why are you on the dating apps?
Ugh.
Right? So if single living is so great, why are you trying to not be single? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what that says to me is these people want to ride the relationship escalator. And it's just so any sort of thing that deviates from that just seems wrong, in that way.
Hmm.
I'm at an age where I certainly date women who still have children, sometimes young, sometimes older, sometimes they're empty nesters. So
Okay,
it's the
ladies.
full range. But what I say when this comes up, this, and oftentimes it's in the profile, right? Before
Sure. Yeah.
the match, this here. Now, sometimes it's the number one line, right? You lead with, I'm a mom of, whatever. And sometimes it's the final line, or sometimes it's somewhere in between. Sometimes it's not discussed, but it's part of the category, whatever it might be. But my thing is, and this might be worthwhile, you tell me, the two of you, I think it's worth knowing what role the man might play with regard to the child. And so what I say is, look, if you're looking for a co-parenting situation eventually, where we're going to team up and we're going to, you know what I mean? Like, I'll help with the kid when you have him or her, and then we're off on our own when you don't, I might not be the right guy for you. But, however, if when you have your free time, you want to get dressed up, you want to go out, you want to have fun, you want to take a trip, you want someone to help with adult time,
Be your
I'm your
partner in
guy.
crime. Yeah.
Yes, I am your guy. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And the issue is this is for some people, they're like, that's exactly what I want. I got it sorted. You know what I mean? I got the kids sorted. I've got my team, all that kind of thing. I'm not looking for a dad and so on. And then other women say, that's not right. You know what I mean? And so on. And so I think that's...
Is there a trend?
Paula's making faces. She's making faces.
Is there a trend like women with younger children tend to, have you noticed a trend like women with younger children tend to want the daddy figure versus, not the daddy, the father figure? And
the daddy figure is a different dynamic.
I had to catch myself. Sorry. Yes, Annie. Versus women with older children, they're good because they've just been a mom for so long that they have it figured out. Like, is there a trend? That's in my mind when you were saying that. I'm imagining women with older children don't need your help. Women with younger children possibly are more open to the whole co-parent idea. Just curious.
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that question.
Okay.
I don't know if I have kind of enough
I would
data
think
to-
that, I'm just assuming that like a guy meets a girl on an app and she's got, a child maybe under 4 years old, just throwing a number out there.
Yes.
Like I can see that guy being like, I don't want to have to raise a 4-year-old, like if this guy didn't have kids. If this guy also had kids, that's a completely different
It's completely
mindset.
different.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. When a guy has kids, or the other person, doesn't have to be a guy, when the other person has kids, there's often this sort of like, I've had this happen where I was dating a woman who had twins, and she was just like, at one point in time, she's like, listen, I've met someone, he's got kids,
Okay.
and like, I mean, I'm not saying that he didn't have a whole lot of other good things that are better than me also, but there was this sort of like, we've got the kids this week. We don't have the kids that week. We're going to team up and conquer. And I think that's probably more the norm.
I think I prefer a man to say something like that up front. I think that some women might call it a bad idea, or women who haven't gotten over like their momminess, you know, they might get offended.
What is this? Momminess?
Their momminess? I don't know.
Oh, their momminess. I think you said mom meanness.
That's what I thought you said.
Yeah, momminess.
Maybe
okay.
I could. Maybe it's the same word. Yeah, like I feel like in the beginning of dating, I used to get offended when someone would say that, because I'm like, don't judge me. Like, why can't we just enjoy each other's time? And if things evolve the way they evolve, then you can meet my son and we can, like, if we're not going to grow up and be a family, if your intention is not marriage from the jump street, which I'm not saying yours is or isn't, I'm just, in my mind, I'm trying to track this. I'm like, okay, so I got a kid. You're saying you don't want to be a co-parent. So why are we even dating if you don't envision a future that includes children? I don't know. It's like you just want to have a good time. And if that's the case, then cool. Tell me up front and that's cool. No shade. So I would appreciate someone to say that up front. Mm-hmm. And the way you said it was very, very, very nice. You know, some men say it very mean.
How would it be mean?
Some men will say, oh, you got baggage. You know, maybe it's a culture thing too. You know, I'm a little chocolate, so maybe it's the men's on my side that just, they don't act right. You know, I have been dipping on the other side lately. You know, I do like dating white men. Y'all are just amazing. But sorry guys. Maybe it's just, you know, the brown skin. I could be wrong, but they just some, not all. Sorry. Yeah, they just look at it as a negative.
What I know about
say,
men, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter their color. There's just going to be
perhaps
some people who do it well and some people who don't.
In my experience, I'll say it that way.
Okay.
But no, I mean, yeah, some people look at it as baggage. Some people say, I'm not trying to be a father to your child, you know, and I'm just like, well, dang, like, I didn't ask you to be a father. I don't want you to be a father. Exactly.
Right.
Thank you.
Exactly. So, like, I don't need you to do that. Like, so the way you said it, I think is appropriate, you know, because you know yourself and you know what you want. And if you don't want that, then that's good for you to say it up front.
First of all, I'm not jamming it in there. You know, I wait for it to be an appropriate time to have this conversation. You know, it often comes up, you know, at some point. And it's just, I think, a reasonable, I'm being honest. And I believe you be honest early. Yeah. And you might be disappointed a little bit in the moment if there's not a match, if you're attracted, interested in, you know, someone's compelling. But in the long run, it's just so much, it's fair to do, especially when there's another person involved, a child involved, you know, that suddenly that is the case. All right. So what else is there to cover with regard to dates? So Marla, you're just thinking about, well, at some point, maybe it'd be nice.
I have no appetite for it right now. I'm going to be totally honest. I am not looking to get back on any apps. I mean, I'm sure all my friends would love it because then they hear the stories about, you know, who did you meet? I mean, my friends that have been married for, my God, 15 years, they just think it's the funniest thing ever. I'm like, you think this is funny? Like, this is...
Is this a joke? Am I a clown?
Look at these people. Look at what is there. Okay?
I have a colleague. She's like, I'm living through all of your stories. She's like been married for 20 years. And she's just like, oh my God, how was your weekend? You're right. They love hearing the stories.
Yeah. Yeah. They just live through it. Like they just can't get enough. But yeah, like that, I feel like, you know, that ship kind of in a way that ship has sailed, like the app ship. I'm not necessarily eager to get back on board that ship. But I mean, am I eager to like, I don't know. I feel like whatever happens in the future, I'm open to it. I always thought all the times that I traveled for work constantly, like, couldn't I have ever sat next to somebody on a plane? Like one time, you know, all the trips.
Exit row, Marla. That's where the good guys are.
Well, I used to sit in exit row when I had that status because I am tall, so I need the extra leg room. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for indulging that bit of the conversation. Partly going to add something? Yeah.
Real quick, for all the ladies, maybe this is a tip, maybe it's not. Single moms out there in the universe. Okay. You don't have to go online. Go to where nice guys hang out, right? Go to a live concert. Go to a winery. Walk outside of some cigar shops. If you don't smoke cigars, just walk outside. You know, they on the street, you know?
Cruise by.
Go, just cruise on by, go somewhere, you just gotta, because I feel like, listen,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm wrong, but it's just like, okay. And I know, Peter, your podcast is all about embracing solo living and not chasing a man or a woman. But for those of you that want to be with a man or a woman and you're out of the phase of just not out, I don't know. I just say go to where who you want to meet are. Go to a finance conference. Go to a CEO conference. You know it's a good conference? Go to the Inc. 5000 where they celebrate the top 5,000 small businesses that have experienced growth. Those are really good conferences to go to. And then write it off with your taxes if you have a business. Like, listen, go.
You never know who you're going to meet. That's my mother's famous last words.
But you don't have to go online because online is a bunch of trash anyway.
Yeah,
sorry. I'm online. I'm not trash, but.
I get it. I understand. Well,
a lot of work.
I want to add another layer to this. And that is you have to go and then you have to try.
Yes.
That is, you have to
Make
put on
an
a
effort.
friendly face, say hello, be open.
Wash your hair.
Be open, right? I think that's the thing that people are looking for, right? Is, and I think we're going to have a resurgence of IRL stuff happening.
Oh, for sure.
In the future. So thank you for that, Paul. I think that's great. I don't like that the apps feel like the only game in town. I think there's a lot of bad behavior. I think people are a lot more polite and warm, and you can also figure out chemistry and connection in person very, very quickly in that way. So I want to finish by asking you to ask a question. And here's the issue. I don't know what questions I should be asking. I'm not living your life. I'm quite distant from it. And so what is it that we haven't covered that you think should have been asked of either of you? You can tell that I did not prepare them with this question beforehand.
Dead silence.
Yes.
I mean, I'm wondering kind of, because when Peter was giving your bio, your intro, I was like, holy smokes, you're impressive. Like, this is awesome. Like, how do you maintain your awesomeness, and stay on? Like you're a real life working mom. Like, how do you stay on?
Yeah, it's a challenge. I feel like every day, and I'm sure you feel this too, it's just every day is like, I think about in terms of the sun rises and the sun sets every day. And I feel like every day is a new day to start fresh again, no matter what happened the day before. Never is that more true with raising a child, raising a daughter on my own. There's so many good moments and there are so many hard moments. There are, times when I'm like, you just kind of lose your mind and don't know what to do. And it's just, me and her, and there's nobody to turn to and say, you take her. So there's that element. I feel like, to your point earlier about asking for the favor, asking for help, I feel like I should get better at that. I'm very reliant on my mom and dad, and obviously the daycare too, but asking for the favors from the people who are willing to, that who have reached out to you and that you had support with being able for these, your friends, family, whoever, to watch your son when he was younger. That's so great. That's just so great. To Peter's question earlier, who are your haters? I went into the local shoe store to buy my daughter her first pair of shoes, and locally owned, right up the street in Chicago. And the woman I bought the shoes, and she's trying to sell me some shoes for me. She's like, oh, look at these sandals. Aren't these so cool? You could go on date night with your husband and wear these. And I said, yeah, if I had a husband, I could do that. And her face just dropped. She's like, oh, I should just keep my mouth shut. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. I said, yeah, well, I'm a single mom, and I'm doing it on my own. So it's all good. And she's like, oh, that's okay. I'm like, yeah, I know it's okay, woman.
I don't need you to tell me it's okay, right?
I need you to stop talking now. So, yeah, I mean, just moments like that where, hey, I get it. We live in a society where people assume that they see you with a baby who's 1 year old. They're going to assume there's a father involved or a husband involved. I mean, it's not, like something that I wasn't anticipating hearing at some point. It was like, when it happened, it was like, here we go. here we go.
Was that the first time that you really felt that?
I think so. I've been to so many parks with my daughter and met so many other moms, and they're there with their husbands or whatever. And no one's ever said like, so what do you and your husband do? Or what are you and, and it's always just kind of you focus the conversation about your kids mainly, or just you and the other woman, like saying like, what do you do? What do you do? So that was, the local
You're like,
shoe
he can
store
talk, he
sales
can
lady.
count to 10 without any help. He knows all his colors.
I feel like a bragging mom when I talk to. I feel so bad. I'm like, let me shut my mouth because these 4-year-olds out here don't know how to count, know their colors. Let me shut up. I feel like I'm like, yeah, look at my.
Yeah. It just goes to show you, even just, to think outside of your bubble. And it's forced me to even think differently, being in the situation that in my life, has taken now. Because, you look at other families and, I live in like a very gay friendly neighborhood and, you're constantly seeing 2 dads, 2 moms,
Yeah, sure.
Every different family, every family is special in its own way. So.
Well, and also the other thing is this is just because there's 2 parents doesn't mean it's okay.
Listen, oh my God, you are 100% correct.
It doesn't mean it's okay.
Listen, Marla, he's right. Like some of these people, my friends who are married with children, listen, they have to consult someone else to. I don't want him to eat that. I don't want him to wear that. Why are you holding him like that? Why did you put him in bed this time? Like, there's so many things you have to like work together on
and
that
it sucks
we
the energy
don't.
out of you. Yeah,
we can just make a decision and it's done. Like it's our decision. Okay, I'm going to bathe him tonight.
I will say that I am not most of the time. Whether it's me being like, oh, that's the way it's going to be. So
Yeah, you're not going to get mom and dad. I'll tell you that. Or like someone doesn't like what mom had to say, so it goes over to dad to answer the question.
Yeah, that's right. Stops with me.
Yeah, I think for me, what I want to respond to what Marla was saying about her career and staying on, I think that for me, I had to like woosah and take a break because I'm so hard on myself, and I was the person that planned out my life in a notebook and in vision boards. 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years. And like by now I was on track to do certain things and then like, boom, baby. And I had to be okay with taking a break. Meaning, like all my friends in the industry, I feel like they say, what happened to Paula? Or where did she go? Because I was so like everywhere and having fun and, no one's ever said this. I just feel like I'm being left behind. And I just had to be like, you know what, Paula, your life now is about you and your child. I've given up anything, but like I had to, because I was getting really bad anxiety. I was just like, I should be working. I should be reading a script. I should be emailing this person, because I would work all the time as a single person. And like with the baby, you don't want to work. You just want to go to sleep. Yeah. But like, no, like, what is it called? Postpartum depression?
Oh, yeah, depression.
Marla?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I ever had that, but like, I can understand like those thoughts that moms have. I don't know if you knew that, Peter, but like after you have a baby, like because it's such a huge change in moms, I've heard some stories of moms just wanting to just reject their baby. Like,
yeah. It's serious. I mean, they screen you, right, constantly after you have the baby for all the signs and triggers for that, which is so scary, I'm sure, for anyone that feels
that you might have a physiological response that leads you to things that don't seem rational.
Yeah. Or some of the groups, they say it's okay to feel these things, like how you guys were talking about counselors earlier in therapy. Like, I've never struggled with it, but again, everyone's moms now, right? So it's like you hear all these stories and all of the moms are now like encouraging each other, saying it's okay to hate your baby.
It's okay to feel. It's okay to feel things.
Or feel,
to be frustrated, to be angry, to be tired.
Yeah. And so, why did I say that? I don't know, but
about giving up, being able to be easy on yourself.
Being easy on myself.
Changing goals.
Yeah. Because it's just...
Be kind to yourself.
Like, full stop. Like, you wanted to be a mom. You planned it. You froze your eggs. You were like, this is it. I'm like, got hit by a Mack truck. Like, Oh, shoot. I'm a statistic now, like, wait a minute. My great life I have is over. How do I come back from this?
And I think hearing you say that makes me realize, like you said, 34.
34.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now you're in the thick of it.
Girl.
Everything. But this is like future. And I love that you do vision boards. I love that. You're going to get to those vision boards. Not going to happen right this second.
Totally.
But you're
it's a control freak in me.
You're going to get there. Yeah.
So I always thank my guests. Of course. I try to be gracious. But I really want to thank the two of you.
Aww.
Because I know that this is not like, oh yeah, no problem, Pete. I got plenty of time. So I appreciate you finding time to do this amongst your busy schedule, personally and professionally. I also thank you for your vulnerability and also for just being so delightful and thoughtful. This was, as I said, a long overdue topic. I think it's one that's really important. Solo is a big tent, and so you two fit under that tent. And I think you've done a very nice job of either highlighting both the challenges, but also the great reward for people who might be considering this. And then I have a feeling there are listeners who are just doing what a lot of my listeners do, which is say amen or hallelujah when they're finding a message that really resonates with them that they're not hearing elsewhere. So with that, I want to say thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
This was fun.
I know. Indeed. I wish I could give Paula a big hug right now.
Oh, virtual hugs.
Virtual hug.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. For more about our guests and show notes, go to petermcgraw.org. Please subscribe and share with your single friends.